too. So we would like to put this on our social media channels a little bit later in the afternoon. But again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Jody Nicosia, and I'm the Director of Programs with NAMI Pinellas. I'm really happy to be here today, spending my time with some wonderful individuals that really work within the youth mental health field in our community, and our wonderful sponsors who have helped us to get here today as well. We'll go ahead and move on here to the next screen, just as some reminders. As others come in, we want to make sure that we do put ourselves on mute. Feel free to put our questions in the chat box, and then questions will be discussed after we have a little discussion with our panelists. So kind of the time frame we're looking at today is we'll probably have the last 15 to 20 minutes where we do answer those questions, but please feel free to put any questions in the chat box as we go. Okay. So again, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors for their support today. We do have Humana's Far From Alone. This is a great insurance company that really has invested in our community. They have this wonderful website, the Far From Alone website, that does have a lot of great resources for us to connect with. Whether you are a member of their insurance company or not, they definitely want to help out. And then also Palm Shores Behavioral Health Center. This is a wonderful behavioral health center that is located in Bradenton, and they too have been a wonderful supporter for children's mental health statewide. So now kind of here's some overview of what we'd like to talk about today. We're really going to have a conversation with these individuals, but we do hope to really talk about youth mental health and perhaps why it's important for some early intervention. What are some of the youth mental health resources in our community, and how to maintain positive mental health? And then also we have a youth peer with us who has graciously agreed to share a little bit about her wellness journey as she has grown into a young adult. So without further ado, here are our speakers. We're really excited to have these awesome speakers with us here today. So we have Shania Turner. She is the Mental Health and Wellness Program Manager from St. Petersburg College. She's doing a wonderful duty to our college age and non-traditional students with our St. Pete College. Next, we have Monica Davis. She is the Mobile Crisis Team team leader, supervisor with PEMS, our Personal Enrichment for Mental Health Services. This is our community provider for mental health services. And then lastly, we have Falana Shannon with us. She is a youth peer that works with Ready for Life. So again, we're excited to have each of these individuals here today. And I have asked for them to go ahead and give a little introduction of themselves. So Shania, can we start with you?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As Jody said, my name's Shania. I will let you guys know I actually grew up in Indiana for most of my life, but I came to Florida for college and I love the weather, so I decided to stay. I have actually struggled with anxiety my entire life, as long as I can remember, and was recently diagnosed with ADHD. But I am really here today because, as Jody said, I am the Mental Health and Wellness Program Manager for students at St. Pete College. And my background is actually in public health. So I just received my master's degree in public health from USF on Sunday. Thank you. And so this is really where I have gotten into the public health sector, as it is something that's personal to me and meaningful, but I also want to be someone who can help others and provide the different programs. We do provide direct services through a vendor for students for counseling, as well as some prevention and early intervention resources and information. So yeah, that's kind of what my role is and why I'm here today. So I'm excited to talk and to hear from everyone.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And now we'll hear from Monica.
Everybody, of course, I'm Monica. Like Jody said, I am the MCRT Mobile Crisis Response Team Supervisor. I have been in the mental health field for 4 years now. I started off as a social worker with PIMS, and I worked my way up. I come from a long line of law enforcement. My mom, my sisters, dads, aunts, uncles. I am the only one who took a different route. The reason I came into this field is because I had a best friend who took his own life, and I felt at that time he wasn't receiving the proper mental health services. So I vowed that I didn't want another family or friend or anything to feel the hurt and pain that we did. So I got my master's degree in mental health services. I've worked on our PIMS, thank you, CSU unit with the kids and adults. I love it. I also do private practice. I am a workaholic. That's just a part of me and my passion for people. I am a aunt of a wonderful 4-year-old nephew. He is my heart, and I am a fur mom. I have 2 fur babies, a pug and a dog.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing so much. I learned something new every day, and I'm really thankful for you sharing that experience. So now, Falana, it's your turn. Again, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background. If you could share.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Falana Shannon, and a little bit about me. So I'm going to start with the fun facts. So I am left-handed. I have tried to practice writing with my right hand for a very long time, and I really can't. So I suck at that. I like to sing behind closed doors when no one is around. Also dance behind closed doors when no one is around. Also, what is another key fun fact about myself? I like to write, but one of my goals, I think, in the future will be to eventually maybe go to school and take up journalism so I could, be more comfortable with like sharing my writing skills and just like inspiring others to, what they say on paper, to express what they're saying on paper. Growing up, I did struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression, but I kind of called it the suppressor. I was what you considered a suppressor depressor. I wouldn't necessarily express to people or to therapists or just overall if I mentally felt like I was not okay. So I would suppress it a lot growing up. So now being older, I'm getting better with that. I also was in the foster care system for several years, and I am now working at Ready for Life for almost 8 years with young adults who've aged out of the foster care system. And what I do is I help them transition to adulthood, and I, help them speak up for themselves and speak up for their mental health, their well-being, and their worth overall as a whole. So it's a little bit about me.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, ladies, for agreeing to come on our panel today as we really talk about mental health in our youth. There's so many wonderful partnerships and collaborations going throughout our community. And, really a lot of them focus on prevention. We recognize that prevention is such an important key in really ensuring that we get to youth as young as we can to help them understand some of the prevention aspects and resources that are in our community. So, we talked about kind of having a conversation versus really a back and forth, me asking questions and whatnot today. So I'd kind of like to start with Monica. Given that she is the kind of a clinical provider in our community, what are some of the resources as well as like some of the preventative resources that you're aware of in our community? Can you start with sharing some of those?
Yes. So the first one that we use to, the point of mobile crisis, a little background of it is we work with an age group of 25 and younger. We do receive calls from adults who are older than 25, and we also, can help them. But our goal is to prevent a Baker Act, is to prevent hospitalization due to a mental health episode or substance abuse. So we have therapists that'll come to they respond out to the home. We have a triage therapist, and we also have 2 or 3 other therapists, 2 licensed and 2 non-licensed, that will respond out, do an evaluation. We do the proper assessments. And if we feel that the client can safety plan, family can safety plan, and they can be connected to outpatient services, that's the route that we will go. If we feel that they need to be inpatient, we have a couple hospitals, facilities that we utilize. We have a strong collaboration with law enforcement. So if they do respond out to the home, they do transport for us because we do not transport. So they help with that. A lot of our outpatient services we use is Suncoast, Caring Community, Sequel Care. We have some through Baycare, Behavioral Health, and Directions for Living. So we're kind of that first crisis. If you're do the crisis level from a 1 to 5. If you're a 1 to 5, I say, or 1 to 6, I say call mobile crisis. If they're a 7 to 10, I say call 911 because usually they're verbally or physically aggressive, they're harming themselves, they are inactive, harming themselves, or they just had an act. And then if they're really having some severe symptoms and they have a history of self-harm or suicide attempts, we also kind of just say act right then and there, because it takes us up to an hour to respond, and we don't have lights and sirens. We can't go hands-on, and we can't render medical aid. So that's usually how I gauge the crisis and what we can do. We're very flexible with the family. So if the family feels like, okay, we're in crisis now, we can't really meet because we're trying to deal with this. We have what we have called as an urgent call. We mark it as urgent, and we can do an intake appointment and follow up and get that connection. So I always say we're like mental health on steroids, because we do everything
Right.
in a 1 to 7 time frame. So that's how we are, and we're just like the middleman. And our goal is to keep, a 8-year-old from being Baker acted if we can. That is our main in the community, is to and then connect to those services.
Wow. Well, that definitely sounds like a great resource that we have in the community. And it sounds like a lot of people use the resource.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to piggyback off of Monica. I know that Ready for Life does partner with Mobile Crisis Unit. Woo woo. We also partner with Directions, and we also partner with Suncoast for when we have those things. So I feel like it's so now just listening to it, it's pretty amazing how just all these resources can, come together to prevent, situations like this, or even, places like PIMS. I remember growing up, they constantly would, put me in PIMS. I know another one is Winmore for like emergency situations, but one of the main things of one of the reasons why I think I was placed in the mental, I call them mental health facilities, because back then, Baker Act, they used to like bully us for saying that. But I think one of the main reasons for myself, I was being Baker acted, was because I did struggle with expressing my feelings to a therapist, or just expressing my feelings to just overall talk to people in general. And I wish that these resources were, there back then when, I needed it, because a lot of things could have been prevented, but it does feel good to know that we have these resources available for the youth population, for the adults populations, for parents that suffer from postpartum depression. I feel like it's so beneficial that we just have this triage that is going on. So.
And again, I always make the reference, we're like AMSCOT, we're open 24 hours.
Right.
Holidays, we are around the clock, and usually we have a therapist, like myself included. I work 14-hour shifts, so I'm on from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then we do on call from 10 p.m. on weekdays to 8 a.m. the next morning. And then weekends, we have a weekend therapist. They work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then a mobile crisis therapist another one will come on from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. So there's always someone there. And we have an awesome team, from our weekend therapists to our team. They are very compassionate, very efficient. They are just amazing. So we're here to help.
Yeah, that definitely sounds great, Monica. And, here from NAMI, we're all about peers. And I do believe you have a peer specialist that's
Yes.
on staff that goes out with your team. So that is phenomenal. We love to hear that. And, so I want to pivot just a minute to Falana, something that you had said. You mentioned that back in the day, we didn't use the word Baker Act because you could be bullied. So,
Yes.
that just kind of is, is that a form of stigma,
Yes.
stigmatization? There's so much stigma going on in our community with mental health, but I do believe that our youth are less bothered by stigma.
Yes.
But again, I haven't been a youth in quite some time, so you all three work with youthful population. What do you feel? What do you see about stigma? And I mean, do you have any issue getting youth to come and participate or continue to participate? Or how does stigma really rear its head in your guys' different lenses that you see?
I feel like now, with this, day and age, it's become, I love the fact that it's becoming more vocal. In some cases, it is uncomfortable for the youth population to express themselves or to even vocalize that something is wrong with them. But so in some cases, they just can't take it anymore and they, just vocalize, listen, I'm not okay. I'm not good. My mental health does not feel like it's its best. I'm noticing this about myself. I'm noticing that I'm having 4 hours of sleep compared to 6 hours of sleep. I'm triggered by having this conversation. I experienced this type of sexual abuse at this age, and to talk to a therapist about it, it makes me uncomfortable, but I'm willing to do it. So what I'll do is express, something along the lines is, well, listen, I've done this before. And even though it made me personally uncomfortable, there is help, there is hope. And don't necessarily rush yourself. If you feel like you're not ready to talk about it, don't even make me feel like I have to force you to go and speak with someone. But I also want you to be safe as well, and not feel afraid to talk to someone. So I usually, tell my young adults, listen, I've had my share of therapists. I've had my share of being Baker acted compared to, again, back then, I probably wouldn't vocalize it because I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, I felt judged. And now it's more of an accepting feeling, when you know that you're not okay and it's other people around you that are experiencing some of the same things. So it makes it better for everybody to relate, if that makes sense.
And you said some important key facts, Falana, that made me think. I noticed it's not the youth that worries about the stigma, it's the parent. And I noticed
Right.
that in mobile crisis and in
Mhm.
private practice, that, like you said, the youth, they are open and they'll tell you, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. But I noticed
Right.
the parents are the ones that's worried about what is this going to do for their future, this. So you have to also not only reassure the youth, but also the parents.
The
And
parent.
one thing that I noticed that I kind of like to do with my parents and with my youth that I encounter, they know when someone is genuine. So if you have a therapist, a counselor come into your home, or you go to their office or
You
wherever you
cannot
meet,
be a robot.
yes, they look at you, they look at your body language, your facial
Mhm.
expression, and the words you use. And a lot of times I like to interact with the youth, as I just tell them, this is not your typical therapy session that you see on the movies. I'm not going
Correct.
to say, how are you feeling? We have a conversation just like we're having a conversation. We laugh, we
Right.
cry. Sometimes I cry with them, to show that
Correct.
I am human. I am. And even the parents, I let them know I understand. I kind of understand, or I can't imagine how you feel, because some stuff I don't understand how they're feeling. So you let me know. And when you show that compassion, that genuineness, that all of that, and that empathy, it all comes into play. And I noticed, even working on the units here with some of the toughest of the tough, they don't like sympathy. Don't treat them any different.
Correct.
Don't let them know, and don't let them know that mental health issue is an issue. Once you bypass that, then they understand, okay, I have this. And I just tell everybody, I say, it's like baggage, it's like luggage when we go on the airport. We
Mhm.
all have some, whether yours is Louis Vuitton, yours is hard shell, soft shell, you have a premium.
Right.
We all have something that we're dealing with and that we're trying to work through. So don't feel like you're alone. All of us, it's just different, just like different luggage, purses, cars we drive, it's all like that. So, and I think that helps reassure them. But I think you have to be genuine. You have to care about what you do. And then you just have to listen, and like Falana said, you don't force them. I tell my kids, if you don't force them to talk to me, don't force them to do therapy,
Right.
because it's going to leave a nasty taste in their mouth when they are ready or they feel like they're ready.
Or sometimes I'm noticing that sometimes they'll leave little clues that they want to discuss it, but they don't want to, be the starter of the conversation. I had a young lady, she's like one of my babies. And she had a rough week. And she, texted me and vocalized like she was triggered by a session. And my way, and we just have it's one of those things is we have a relationship to where like, listen, you're stronger than this is a part of your healing. I remember texting her back saying, this is a part of your healing, you'll get through this. And I know that if I can do it, then I can. I'm not gonna like force you, push you, but I'm gonna give you that motivation to make you feel like you're not by yourself, or you're not the stigma of you're crazy or something is wrong with you. No, nothing is wrong with you. You're just like me, and we all go through stuff. And don't, I get it, but don't be afraid to necessarily feel alone, like you can't vocalize or vent or talk, or just feel like you don't have that voice that you always have. Because usually when people have mental health issues, they suffer in silence, and that's one of the most deadly things. That's why people commit suicide. That's why people are overdosing. It's a multitude of things, because they keep it bottled in, because they don't want to feel judged. They don't want to feel like someone is out to get them. I know a lot of kids in foster care, they don't vocalize their feelings because they're already labeled a foster child or an orphan, or they're just a number, or they're just a name in the system, and it makes them already want to shut down. So if you're already going through that, why would you want to vocalize that mentally you feel like you have something wrong? Because I know in my case, I was already a foster kid. So I already was dealing with that baggage. Okay, so I do have some mental health issues. That's another baggage, but I don't know if I want to open up that baggage, because I'm already, feeling like a burden or a hurdle. And I know that mentally I wasn't a burden or a hurdle, but I just felt like I didn't know. I wanted to vocalize it, but I was so scared and ashamed to express my feelings. And that is something that we as people, we struggle with every single day. But I feel like it's up to us to break that cycle and make the change and let them know like there's hope. Like there's people, like everybody's walks of life is different. I always say that. That's one of my biggest mottos, that everyone walks of life is different. And honestly, you never know what someone is going through. So if there is help, why not, share it? Why not be like give them that hope? Because you never know who you're helping. So.
And I always say nobody's quote unquote normal. We
Right.
are quirky. And even, with the families that I see, from adults to, younger kids, that, they say, I don't know how to express it. I don't know how to say it. And I always tell them, whatever's in your mind, just spit it out. Tell me the best way you know how. Just spit it out. It doesn't have to be technical detail. Even if you say one word, we can go off that.
That's progress.
And we can sit here in silence. I tell them, you can come here to cry, yell, whatever you need. These sessions are for you. And like, especially with mobile crisis, I know when you make the child feel comfortable and they open up and talk to you, whether they're an adult, because a mom is going to be a mom no matter how old their child is. If you make their child feel comfortable, then they're comfortable and they're open to progress. So it starts with, again, the family unit also, to have that support. And education is the biggest thing, psychoeducation, and letting them know the importance of medication management. Just because you take medication, it doesn't matter. You know, I have kids who say, well, I'm on this medication, and I tell them I have lupus. I'm on a bunch of medications. I'm on more medications than my we all take medications for something. So it's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow,
Well, it's
Monica, so we
awesome.
both, I'm so sorry. Wait, you have
Oh, no.
lupus?
Mm-hmm.
So I have lupus as well, and lupus is sidebar. I just want to say this month is also Lupus Awareness Month. So I just want to press that. Wow, I got chills. Sorry, but I just see prime example is different walks of life. That is, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I just
Yeah.
wanted
Well, no, Falana and Monica, the only thing I was gonna do is, just kind of pull out some of those gems that you laid there, because, what you're talking about is really connecting with that individual, giving them the space to decide when and if they want to share, and what they want to share.
right.
Helping them, kind of being their cheerleader to say, hey, listen, you can do this. And that really is just an important factor, to have someone that you can connect with.
And if
And
you
then,
have
of
a
course,
bad
at
day,
the
it's
end there.
okay. If you're
Yeah,
having a
yeah.
bad day, it's okay. If you want to go to a therapy session and just that day you don't want to vocalize your feelings, it's okay. We can, try it again. But these youth are also paying attention to make sure that you're not giving up on them. They want that one person to just be there and support them, and not just, temporarily, come in their life, because that's going to make them want to shut down. I know I had a therapist years ago, and I got so comfortable talking to her, and it just so happened she had to transition and go on, and oh my God, it ate me up, because I'm like, wait, I just opened up to you, and I'm like, that I have mental health issues, and now that I vocalized it, did I do something wrong? And it wasn't, the case. But now looking at it now, this lady helps me, vocalize that, mental health is not a stigma. Mental health is something that everyone goes through every day. And so it's all a process, I believe, for sure. But I always tell the young adults, if you are not ready, don't rush yourself, but help is definitely there. It's definitely there in so many ways. And we just have to break the cycle and let them know that it's help and support. So
Yeah. My favorite thing is and I tell everybody this, from family, friends to everybody, it's okay not to be okay. We don't have to be stoic. We don't have to be this person that bottles everything in all the time. If you want to cry, cry. Like I say, I have my adult clients that come in and they just say, I just need somebody to listen. Sometimes you just sit there and listen. And yes, it drives my family crazy, because then they're like, talk. I'm like, I'm listening. You need to vent,
right.
That's what I'm here for. So sometimes we just have to sit there and listen. And like Falana said, sometimes they're screaming on the inside, listen to me, hear me, because so many people are not listening or not seeing the signs. But when you have that one person that listens, I say that's when it's like a river. It just all flows out. And that's where you're able to have that connection.
Yeah. Well, so I just want to kind of ask another question, kind of put another layer on that. And, Shania, hopefully you can, help to add some light as well. But what about social media? Like so many youth are very, open on social media and sharing so much, sometimes too much in my opinion, but nonetheless, a lot on social media. How do you think that this is a good thing? Or, again, I think that it is a platform for youth to express themselves. But what are your guys' opinions on how social media affects our mental health and our youth?
I feel like personally, if you're having like one of those moments, I think everybody understands what I'm saying. If you're having one of those moments where you're just not good, I feel like, it's like a 50-50. I feel like if you know that you're not good, I don't think you should be on social media, because the wrong person could see it and could say, oh, well, do it. Oh, you're having thoughts of harming yourself. Go ahead and do it. And then you have the people on the other side of the spectrum that's like, do you need someone to talk to? There's a text line for this. So it's like
Yeah.
It varies.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that, as like a lot of things, and especially technology and newer things, there are some really great positives and some not so great negatives. I think that social media is one other space for people to express themselves. So I think for a lot of young people who might be more comfortable expressing themselves on social media, or creating that alternative alias or an anonymous account, I think it gives people another time and place and group of people to express themselves, which I think sometimes can be really, really valuable. I know there are a couple of like technology products out there that are kind of set up in a social media way that are made to help people with their mental health, specifically younger people. There's one that's like an anonymous chat room. So, and a lot of organizations sign up and they can let, like for us, we could do that and let our students go in and they can do it anonymously, but it is clinically moderated. So they have peers and clinicians moderating the entire time. So those types of areas are really safe. You have people watching out, you have, those clinical moderators there. So for me, in our space, those are the types of technology that we're looking at that might be able to give our students a social media like area where they can go and share, but we can kind of take away some of those negatives where, like Philana said, you don't want someone to be in a space where they're going to see something that could trigger them or cause them to do something that they might not have done if they hadn't read or seen or talked to that person today. And the comparisons, we talk a lot about going on social media and seeing these beautiful lives of these people that we went to school with or we've met once or twice, and we're like, wow, they really have their life together. They're doing this, they're going on vacation,
comparing lives, that comparison. You're right.
And it's really tough for a lot of people. It's hard enough to compare yourself to the people that you see day to day. But when you compare it on social media, it's different. And I think, again, that still ties back to stigma. I think that social media can be a place for advocates to advocate against stigma. I know as I opened today, I always try to share that I've struggled with anxiety my whole life, because I think that a lot of people who meet me probably wouldn't know that. And as someone who has now a graduate degree and works in a professional environment, I think it's important to call that kind of stuff out. And I see people doing that on social media, which I love. I know there's a trend where people take pictures of their medication and they post it on social media and they say, these are the medicines, here's my Zoloft and here's my Adderall. And, this is what I take every day to be okay, because my brain chemicals don't do it on their own. And, sometimes, hey, those store-bought chemicals are all we've got and we got to take it. So I think like Philana said, it's a double-edged sword, but as long as we're using it and advocating it in the right directions, that it definitely can be helpful.
That's right.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, Monica, do you have anything to add about the social media? I mean, is this something that you see often, or the individuals that you work with?
Yes, like Philana and Cheyenne said, that it can, I call it the blessing and the curse, because you have, someone who really does struggle, with mental health issues, and they're looking for that help, that support, and they're able to find it. And then what we see is a lot with our youth sometimes, that if you have a youth, I hate to say it like this, but wants that attention, they kind of fake it till they make it, and then it causes this. I hate to say it like that, but that's the best way I can think of it right now. But you do have ones that really need the help. You have the support groups that they can't get out because of this circumstances or whatever. So they are able to have that group online. And like we have a social media account that helps reach out and all of this. But then you have that batch that don't use it for good and try to use it for self-preservation and to be able to get that attention that they feel they need or will get that from others. So you have some that you're like, okay, there's really no issue right now, but you're using that because you've seen this on TikTok or somewhere else.
It's like a form of validation of some sort, right?
Yes,
so I understand
like
that.
Sometimes some kids, I heard they say it's like a badge of honor to have, a mental health issue or something. So we've seen both sides of it where it does, like the schools, they monitor it and then they're able to put something into the principal, or they say, hey, my friend posted this, and then we get it. And then you just have the ones that, they should not be on the unit because they're not in crisis or anything, but they seen it on social media to be with their friends and stuff. So it can go both ways. I'm in the middle with it.
Right.
Well, I think too, you all have kind of in one way or another talked about coping mechanisms and how, social media can really be one of those places where you can go to handle, to share, to ultimately cope. And so with all coping mechanisms, there's some good consequences to them and some bad consequences. So unfortunately, I'd like to talk just a little bit about some of those negative consequences that we see. Are we seeing any trends from the programs, from the youth that you guys are connected with here in our community? I know the helpline you just talked about, Monica, I believe is the Sandy Hook Promise tip line. Is that what you were mentioning? So yeah, I know that has been a wonderful part that our school system has invested in to help get ahead of this. But, so many times our youth are seeing these warning signs and activities that youth are participating in or that their peer groups are participating in well before some of us adults do. Are there any trends that we're seeing in our community that, as we try to look at building what our ideal community would look like in order to improve our wellness? What are some of these trends that we're seeing?
Some of the negative, unfortunately, the negative trends that I've seen that came along with TikTok that we'll learn about after a child is on our unit is that they had, I think one was the chapstick challenge. And it was like at the end of the chapstick, that was when you're end your life, or you going to a concert and it had the concert mean they'll say, I'm going to a Mac Miller concert. And he passed away from an overdose, so they're saying they're going to do this. So if they're saying that this certain celebrity, then you kind of know. And I noticed a lot of it, like I said, usually with our youth, I want to say 14 to probably 9 are that age group that you see that the trends and they're doing. You have some teenagers, but it's usually that age group that I see that does it. And then I know a lot of it is brought on by bullying. I see a lot of my clients that come in, a lot of it is like if they never suffer from depression, but now they are because of the bullying at school through social media. And like Falana and Shauna said, that people are telling them, just go kill yourself. And saying all of those things, that it's hard because you can't tell a teenager or a child to stay off social media.
Yeah.
They're going to look at it, they're going to read it, and it's just like, so you have to just show them these are the proper coping skills. This is what, tell them their worth and all of that. So that's what I've seen a lot with it.
I forgot the name of the challenge. It starts with the M, but it was like the Moo Moo challenge or some
Momo.
challenge. There we go. And so that one is another one. And I'm glad that one died down, where you would watch it on YouTube and it would start off like, oh, hi, this is so-and-so. And, oh, well, go to the store, get a razor and like cut your wrist. And I like on YouTube. And it's for like, it was for younger children. I remember my 12-year-old niece showing me, and luckily, she had, the mindset to know that that's not something, don't go to a store and just take a razor and just, that's not, so these challenges are getting, weirder. Even the Juice, the rapper, the Juice WRLD tragedy, he was on a plane, and instead of them searching the plane, he didn't want to go to jail, so he put all of his substance in his mouth and he overdosed in the airport. So it's so many different ways, but it's dangerous. But we also have to be alert of those things before it's too late. So I definitely picking back off of Monica that these challenges are dangerous.
Yeah, I guess so some of the trends that we've been seeing at SPC are a little Well, I'll say the positive trend that we've seen, as Jody kind of mentioned earlier, is stigma is reducing. So at least from my perspective, I'm not a practitioner or a provider. So students, they know that, they aren't coming to me as their doctor. So it's a different relationship. But even as that relationship is different, I still feel like the students are more receptive to be open and honest and transparent. And I think part of that is the trend of reducing that stigma and providing those resources that's happening in all levels. And so that's something that we kind of try to do in our program, is reach them at all levels. So personally, we try to make sure that our faculty and our staff are having these types of conversations, that they're aware and knowledgeable of the environment, the trends, what's going on with our students, because I'm only one person and students aren't required to see me, but they are required to see their faculty. If they're in a class, those are the people they're going to interact with. So trying to get them at that level, trying to get them on the student level, trying to get student engagement going. Jody has actually been helping me with a NAMI on campus club that we're starting here at SPC to try to get some of the students together, working together, looking at what they can do, how they can support each other. And I can say that when we've had a couple of meetings so far, and I can tell that the students who are in that room are helping each other cope. And it is really beautiful to have that because they're not there for therapy or personal. They're there to be advocates and to help awareness for the entire school. But they get together and they share and they talk, and they're so much more open than people were when I was in high school or college. And they are so open that they're creative about it, and they're thinking of these creative solutions and options and ways to implement our program to help people. And I feel like they are learning to cope a little bit better together. So I love the peer groups, the peer support. I think that is so valuable. And I'm so happy that a lot of organizations and institutions are utilizing that. I know Falana and Monica both talked about it, and Jody too. And a lot of our local places around here are using peer support. So I think that's kind of a big key to that coping when students are feeling that way. I can also say that personally, when I was struggling the most, I didn't know I had anxiety. I didn't know that that's what it was. And so to hear them being so transparent, I know that that makes a difference too, because there are students out there who know they're struggling but might not understand it. And having those open, honest, transparent conversations, I think, is having a really big impact.
And
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that you shared that, Shania, because, that last tidbit there is extremely important, in that, understanding what our symptoms look like and what they sound like, what they feel like, is so much more important than that actual diagnosis of what that is. That's one word, that's a medical, but how that diagnosis shows up in our life, in how we're going to cope with that, is really the most important part of it. And I think that we have really identified 3 great individuals here in our community today that are champions for our children. So I guess now we'll go ahead, if you guys are okay. I'm not sure if there are any questions in the chat, but yeah, let's see if there are some questions in the chat. We'll take some of these questions, and then we'll provide some overall resources. And then, unfortunately, our time together is done. So we'll go ahead and go to the chat here. How do you see online mental health apps working for youth? Are they helping to start the conversation with the youth, kind of helping them to open up, warm up?
I think so. Like, we have a peer specialist that works on our team. So sometimes she'll go out with us, or she'll go alone, and she'll provide a wrap, and it's wellness,
Recovery action plan.
Yes, recovery action plan. Thank you. So she does that, and she does it online, in person, and she takes the book. They have the individual for adults, they have one for kids, they have one for families, and whatever the family, which one they would like, she provides. And it also has an app, so you're not carrying around this book with you. So the parents can have an app. Okay, this is what I can do. And I noticed a lot of them, they use it, and when that's her specialty. So I know as a therapist, when I'm talking to families about, I say, just think of it as a birthing plan, just in case, and how it goes. And families, they enjoy that. And being able to talk to her, she does that follow-up calls to say, okay, this is what I experienced. This is how I handled it. This is when I was in this. She's really good at that. And they also, that's another sign of relief. And again, comes back to stigma, that the parents have less anxiety over, because now they look at, she's thriving, someone else, and they can connect to. So we use a lot of apps and different things with us, and contacting, texting. Sometimes I know you don't feel like talking. So a lot of my clients, we text. We do that with mobile crisis. We'll let them text. Private practices, they can text you, email, whatever they're feeling comfortable with. You have to meet them halfway.
Well, and I'm definitely happy that you bring up the WRAP app because the Wellness Recovery Action Plan is an awesome training. It's an evidence-based training, and peer specialists who want to become certified have to really take that class. So if you're a peer in our community, you more than likely have the ability to help walk someone through their WRAP. And we here at NAMI, I train WRAP. I try to offer it about once a quarter. So if anybody ever has an opportunity to participate in one of our WRAP classes, it really is a wonderful opportunity for individuals to really take charge of their health. So let me go ahead and look. I see some other questions coming up on our chat here. So how about, thank you very much for the presentation. What population do you serve the most? Do you see more males or females reaching out for help? So I imagine probably Philana and Monica can both answer that. And well, I suppose you too, Shania.
Definitely both, but mainly the Pinellas County population, some Hillsborough, but definitely the Pinellas County population for sure.
Yeah, I actually was,
males or females?
Sorry, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, just males or females. Do you see more males or more females, or is there a
so there's males that do have mental health issues, but they're more like reserved compared to the young women. But I would definitely still consider both, but more or less more females. But it is definitely some males that I know that we serve in our population that will vocalize with us that they have mental health issues, or just feel that sense of comfort that they have mental health issues, but not so much ready to go to the outside world and say, like, listen, I'm currently dealing with this. But we always advocate and let them know, like, listen, this is available, directions is available, mobile crisis units is available, just so we can keep it, in mind to just give them that motivation.
Yeah, so we contract with a vendor to provide counseling services for our students, and we do receive a report on which demographics of students utilize that service. So when I was looking, our services are overwhelmingly provided to females. It looks like over 70% of our students who use services are females. And when it comes to other demographics, it's a little more evened out. A majority of them are white, but the majority is only around 40%. And then another 40% of them identify as straight or heterosexual, but we do have some more diversity in the sexuality, with some people identifying as bisexual or gay or lesbian. But it is a lot of women. I do notice people who identify as women.
Correct.
I've noticed we get, I say both, and sometimes I think the male population opens up, from what I've seen, sometimes more than a female population. So we get both, and you have some guys that, like I said, we're on the phone for 2 hours during crisis intervention, that they'll say, you know, a breakup or something. So I would say we see it's 50-50.
Mhm.
Good, good. Well, thank you for answering that. I mean, that is a really good question to kind of identify what the needs are in the community and who's reaching out. So there's another question on here. How do we engage someone that's recently received a diagnosis, and from that diagnosis, it seems like their aspirations have been diminished? Is there any way that you can think of that might be helpful to engage them?
I I would say just talk it through and ask them, why do you think, you know, your aspirations, what makes this diagnosis more important than your aspirations? What what are their feelings towards it? So I say, you know, just kind of research that question with them, talk them through it, because once you say something out loud, you have that aha moment and realize,
Mhm.
no,
Yes.
that won't
Oh,
affect that. So I say just processing it with them, just like as Philona know, just like with us having lupus, when you're first diagnosed, you know, your whole world changed, you know, your life is
Right.
one way this day, then the next day, you know, it's
Mhm.
something from your looks to your abilities to do this, to being in the
Mhm.
hospital. So it's the whole point is just kind of processing it all, and don't force them and don't push them, just one piece at a time. I always say, everybody should say 1 day at a time. I say 1 minute at a time. It,
Right.
it takes time, and then you'll see and build up, and then eventually it'll all come into play. But I just say just processing it with them and just say, well,
yeah.
what makes you different from 2 weeks ago when you didn't know to 2 weeks now? What's different?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Just kind of normalizing it. I know a lot of our NAMI programs, we have some slides where there's different famous people that we bring up to youth to help them to realize, I mean, they're famous, they're rock
Right.
stars, they're movie stars, and they have these diagnoses, perhaps even the same diagnoses
Right.
that individual would have. So just normalizing it and sharing those statistics
Yeah.
that it's a lot more common than what you'd think it would be.
Because you have the ones that are, very social about this, or you have the ones that are not really so much social and private, but it takes them a little time to vocalize. I know in my case, I can be social, but I noticed something about myself is that I'm very private, and I can sometimes become an introvert. I know when I was first diagnosed with my lupus, I didn't tell anybody because I wanted to let it process. I wanted to let it I don't know. I was so, I guess I was scared almost, or just, I didn't want to feel like a burden. I didn't want to feel like I was unable to do anything, unable, or I didn't want to think the worst per se. Until just one day I just said, you know what, I'm going to just eventually I'm going to have to say something, because I can't walk around and be in a show about even that or my mental health. And now, being 31, I think it's one of the best decisions I've made. Like, I have clients that talk to me and say, well, Miss Falana, I just found out, my partner gave me, an STD, or I've been diagnosed with being bipolar and I don't know how to digest it. So what's your advice for that? And I'll give them, listen, well, don't feel alone. Girl, I got depression and anxiety. It's cool. Like, we're in this together. I think if you're giving that person that sense of comfort, I think that allows them to open up or vocalize, whether it's a social person or a private person.
Great, great. Well, we are getting close to time here, and I wanted to give an opportunity to share just a little bit about some resources. But we do have a couple more questions and comments in the chat. So just kind of, Terry, you mentioned, do you think it's helpful for youth to share, to talk to other youth about anything that's going on through workshops like this or Zoom meetings like this? I think astounding, the answer is yes. Lynn mentioned that Suncoast has a talk girl group. We here at NAMI have a young adult support group that we offer. But I think anytime youth have an opportunity to come together in that space, if we as an adults and we as a community can provide space for our youth to come together, I think it's just helpful.
And I
Um,
think it's helpful twofold. I think that, at least for me personally, it's helpful for people who want to help others, and it's helpful to share your own story and what you've gone through and what you feel, because like I said, even as a professional who works in the mental health field, when I share my own struggles and what it feels like to live in my head, every single time I feel a little better. And so I
Someone
think,
relates to it, and you're able to help
yeah,
yourself as well. So it's that village that you're giving me chills, but it just takes that, that village when you actually vocalize it. You don't want to vocalize something and just stand there and just, oh, I understand completely. No, like people want to know, can they relate to you? Can you relate to them? Can you understand it may not be the same mental health, diagnostics, but can you relate to a different aspect as well, to what I'm going through? That's what makes them open up. That's the secret. And I think the key ingredient.
It's seeing
yes.
you seeing another person be vulnerable, it helps too, because going through school, we had to do groups and, sharing a lot with my diagnosis. And I had my best friend, she's very stoic. She's very, and, she had a rough time and she never cried. But when I was talking and how I felt, that's the first time I ever seen her cry. And she was crying in public. So to see her vulnerable and hurting for me was something like, okay, I can open up, I can show this. So I think too, when you're able to show another person that you're vulnerable and you're transparent, and it makes them comfortable, it helps bring them out of the shell. And it shows that somebody do care, somebody do feel like this. I am all of these things. So
and I'm
Yeah.
not alone. I
yes,
think
correct.
sharing stories and helping
Right.
everyone know that they're not alone in their symptoms, in their
Right.
diagnosis, in whatever it is, that's really, really powerful. Because like I
Yeah.
said, there are people who go and they don't know they have a diagnosis, they don't know that there's something
Right.
wrong, they're just struggling. And to hear someone else, be open and honest and really, really know deep down, like, wow, I'm not alone, that can be the key that can change someone's entire perspective. So
I agree.
I think Jody hit the nail on the head. I think
That's right.
overwhelmingly, if you can give any group an affinity space to talk about what they want to say transparently, it's going to be valuable.
yes.
Yes, definitely. So I went ahead and put our slide deck back on just so I could share a couple resources because, here at NAMI, we have helped to cultivate that space through the Youth Move Pinellas chapter. And actually, Falana was one of the chaptering members. So she helped to create Youth Move back in 2019 when we were really getting this off the ground.
Right.
Through the System of Care grant. And, now NAMI really is a supportive adult, supportive organization that helps. And really, Youth Move creates that space for youth to come together. So check out the website, give me a call because the phone number is forwarded to my phone anyway. And then what we've also done too, through Youth Move Pinellas and a couple other individuals, we've created Evolve. And Evolve is a 6-week education course or 6-session education course. And this is a really great course that we are looking for young adults as old as 29, as young as 16, to teach this class. We had our youth put this together with a great curriculum, and now we are in the phase of getting some teachers for that class. So definitely reach out. We want to certainly make sure that we all understand how important mental health is, and that as much as we want to create space, we also don't want anyone to hesitate seeking that professional help. A lot of the spaces that we create, peer support, all of that is very supportive for an individual. But we also want to make sure that clinical care is reached out to if that is something that is necessary. And then lastly, certainly, I want to make sure that everyone, I thank you for coming to participate in our webinar today. Again, we thank our sponsors and then please reach out to me if you have any questions. My email there is on the screen. And then also, if you'd like, we do have this nice little certificate that we can send. If you want to put your name, how you'd like it on your certificate with your email, we can go ahead and send that to you. So thank you again so much for coming today. And Palm Shores Behavioral Health Care, as well as our Humana Far From Alone, are our sponsors today. So again, we want to thank them so much for supporting the work so that we can bring mental health together for all. All right, go ahead and stop our recording here.